Hello, this video is going to give you a little overview of one of the reports that you can access in NWA Map Growth. Let me start by saying that there is a lot of information you can get from NWA, and the student profile report is just one option to kind of get a snapshot of a student's progress and growth. So we're going to just focus on that one report, knowing that there's a lot more you can get. So you might ask, what is a student profile report? And then how can I use this with my students? Well, the student profile report is, think of it like an interactive snapshot of a student's progress and growth with NWA over time. And there's a lot of options of things that you can see. But just to keep things kind of simple and basic, how can we use this when we're talking with students about their progress? So we want to think of and this three basic ways that you can use this report. So we want to celebrate growth, especially considering we may have a lot of students that have dipped lower than they have in the past. So we really want to just focus on progress that they're making and less on where they are compared to maybe some achievement levels. That's good for us all to know, but just not to focus on that sort of thing. It helps us monitor growth over time, so we can see a history of how things look for a student, and then you can use it to create personalized learning pathways and strategies, kind of like breaking down into different instructional areas and standards. We are going to focus on the first two right now. The third one is something that we can get into, and that is more of a content area teacher specific tool that you could use this for. So we're going to think about how can I generally use this to talk about students and their growth and motivate them to use this and to try harder when they take tests and in class. All right, here we are inside a student profile report for a student. There's a separate video on different ways to access this, so you can find that in the slide deck that I provided. So we're just going to kind of do a brief overview of what you see when you log in. So once you get to a student profile report, at the very top, you're going to see an interactive display that is going to give you just a snapshot of their NWA growth data for both math and reading. There may be some language, but we haven't tested language for a little while. It defaults to the most recent term. You can change the term in the top left if you want to see some of their growth data. Since we've only taken one test so far, when we get into some of the other things below, you'll notice that there isn't data for some of that. So let's take a look at some of the different areas. So like I said, you can switch between math and reading simply by clicking on those areas at the very top. And so we see their overall RIT score, the large number there, is the first that's displayed. And then there's some other information about how long they took to take the test, whether they had rapid guessing, and what the test was. So let's scroll down just a little bit so we can see here. I'll click on these other areas in just a second, but on the left, we have some how a student compares to their peers and also to some achievement measures like iLearn. The middle box gives us some information about breaking down that math test score into some different areas, instructional areas, and then to the right, we have a way to set custom goals for a student. So let's scroll down though, so you can see at the very bottom here, we have a visual graph of a student's growth over time, and you can see it'll go back as far as we have data on that student. If you want specific information on that particular test, all you have to do is click on it, and then you'll get a pop-up that gives you a breakdown of that test, similar to what you saw at the top for the current test. Something that's interesting to the right here, I'm going to show you there's some keys as to what the different lines mean, but basically the yellow band there is going to be your average achievement. So students across the country in the 50th percentile are going to fall in that the yellow. If you want to know how a student compares to grade level, that is going to be more into the green. And more specifically, if you, to the right, you have some options to collect under linking study. This just means how does NWEA match against some tests, and we're going to focus on iLearn for our kids right now. You click that, and then you're going to get some pop-ups here, and you'll see that students that are in the yellow to the very bottom part of the green are going to be in the iLearn approaching proficiency, and then you can see near the top where it's highlighted where iLearn at proficiency would be. Again, not something that I would focus a ton on with students right now. Again, we want to keep our conversations on positive and in growth, but that is something for you to know as a teacher, especially where a student might be compared to grade level in iLearn. All right, let's go back up to the top. And if you want to break into this anymore, you're welcome to stick with the video. Otherwise, if that's the basic information you need to know, that you're welcome to stop it. Okay, so let's look at it. The box to the left under comparisons is going to show you what I was talking about. How does a student compare to on their score to other students in the same grade? So this says that they're in the 61st percentile, which is above average for students of their same age. And then it does say, however, even though it's above average, iLearn is a little bit higher than that. So it says that they're approaching proficiency. So it just gives you some info on that. I'm going to skip the area in the middle because this is more helpful for conversations by those content area teachers. Let's go to the right where it says growth goals. If you hit the expand arrows to the right, you're going to get a screen will change and it's going to show you where we want growth targets for students. So you can set some custom goals, but that is something for another time and a little bit more in-depth conversation. So instead, I would just focus on where does NWEA projecting them for this next test. So if you can look at the graph to the right, which shows where they scored in the fall, and then the projected score or the projected growth for them, in this case, math for the winter is a 233. And then for the spring would be 236. So those are what you would want to have as far as conversations with the students. Just say, hey, this is the score you're shooting for. Again, there's some more in-depth information we can get into, but I think that's a great starting point. And again, you can do the same thing with reading. All you have to do is switch from at the top. And now we're looking at the same goals for reading. And you could do that without having to go back to that home screen. So we can see what our score projection is for winter and spring in reading. I hope that gives you a little brief overview for how to use a student profile report when you're talking with students about their scores and their goals.